Heyo, today I want to talk about when body image issues come down to a need or a desire to control something. So, one thing that will happen a lot, super common experience of body image issues, is that when we really get into the nitty gritty of what's going on in a person's body image, it comes down to a need to control something. Generally speaking, this is the body, right? Sometimes it's controlling food, sometimes it's controlling exercise, sometimes it's just about controlling the shape or the size of your body, your weight maybe. So all of this stuff starts to creep in where all of your habits and sort of obsessions around body image stuff is based on control. And when that happens, there can be any number of things that are leading to it, but I want to tell you about three different client case studies that I've come across, three different directions for what can be going on when a person runs into this issue. Because everybody's a little bit different, but when you are stuck in body control, when a lot of your body image stuff comes down to a need for control, you are controlling something other than your body. So what that thing is, I can't tell you yet. We're going to discuss that, but I want you to know that in my experience coaching people on body image, it always comes down to wanting to control something else and doing that via body control. So what does body control look like? For some people, it's about rigid food rules. They are obsessed with following the rules they've set out for themselves in terms of what they can eat, when they can eat it, how much they can eat, what combinations they can eat, after what time they can eat. This can be a really, really rigid system of rules, and they follow the rules, and that's that. And then if something comes in, like you get invited to a last-minute dinner, or maybe you eat something that you didn't plan, you might get really, really upset. I have clients tell me all the time that they had a cookie they didn't plan on eating, and they just cried all night. So this would be an example of somebody who is controlling around food. Likewise, that can show up with exercise. Somebody who, works out it's like I work out 5 days a week. This is what it looks like. I never skip a workout. I always follow these rules. If I'm gonna eat pasta for dinner, I have to do cardio in the morning. Like, there's all these structures, all these rules around controlling exercise. And for that person, again, if you break that plan, they get really upset. So maybe they skip a workout because the gym was closed or something, and now they're home freaking out, thinking about how they're going to get fat, how they're going to ruin all their progress, how they're a bad person, how whatever it is, totally freaks them out, throws them off their game. This is an example of somebody who is only feels okay when they are in control of this thing they have set out for themselves around their bodies. So if you're a person who feels a kind of obsessive need to control food, exercise, weight, body stuff, then you are also trying to control something else. Nobody only tries to control their body without having an ulterior motive or a deeper significance to what it is that they're trying to control. And I'm going to give you three examples of client stories that I see a lot of when it comes to figuring out so that you can heal from whatever the thing underneath is that you are trying to control. So the core principle of the kind of coaching that I do with clients on body image is we are always trying to go below the surface of the story that they have and figure out what's really going on. So I'm going to give you a client story, but this is really a lot of client stories. When we tried to figure out what's going on with why is it so important that you eat exactly the same way every day? Why is it so important to you that you get those, cardio minutes in, and if you don't, you're really upset? Why is this control so important to you? And what's underneath that for a lot of my clients is a feeling that they are out of control emotionally. Sometimes this is because they were, maybe as a kid, shamed for being emotionally volatile. Maybe they had explosions, or they cried a lot, or they were super sensitive and they were just really upset by a lot of things. Maybe they were scared or anxious, and somebody in their life gave them the message that that's not okay, that they are too emotional or too emotionally needy or too damaged, or maybe a relationship sometime in their adult life gave them the idea that they are just too much emotionally. They are a pain in the ass and nobody wants to deal with them emotionally. They're just too much. They have too many feelings, or they're the wrong kinds of feelings, or whatever it is. And that this will often be the thing that a person is trying to squelch down and repress and keep under control. And the way they do that, the way they learn to do that, is controlling their body. So this actually makes a lot of sense if you think about the fact that when you are in control of food, for example, you're restricting, you're following all these rules. First of all, you're distracted from the fact that you feel feelings. because you're busy counting calories or macros or meal planning or whatever it is. You're busy, your brain is busy, so it helps distract you from whatever you're feeling. The other thing is it actually does make you feel more numb. It makes you feel less feelings. For a lot of us, being in control of rigid things, it's like it actually does have a repressing quality. And exercise can be the same way. Over-exercising or exercising in a sort of like compulsive way, like I have to get out, I have to do this thing. You just push your body to the limits, you completely ignore what you're feeling, has a numbing quality. So this is actually a really effective way of squelching down or repressing a feeling of being too much emotionally. For some clients, I've noticed that this will be emotional volatility, that they feel like they feel too much in highs and lows, like they're too much of a roller coaster emotionally. In that case, we have to kind of talk about what that means, normalize the fact that they go on this roller coaster, or look at factors like trauma that might be leading to that roller coaster if it really is an extreme case. But for a lot of my clients, this just comes down to accepting the fact that they are a human person with human emotions, and that was not tolerated for any number of reasons that have nothing to do with them being wrong or bad or too much. So one of the ways that I will do this with clients is offer the reframe of you are too much for whom? Because a lot of times they'll just tell me, I'm just too much. I feel too much. I need too much. I'm too much in this realm for a partner. I push my partners away because I feel too much and I'm too needy. Or I was too much for my parents and they're always telling me to stop being so sensitive. Whatever's going on, we have to reframe that as you are too much for whom? Because there's always a whom. You are not just generally speaking too much. It is difficult to deal with a child's needs and emotions. It is exhausting. Even a partner sometimes. You're like, oh my God, you have all these feelings again, and that's super inconvenient for me because I have to work on this work project. That is a reasonable thing to sometimes be like, I don't have time and bandwidth to deal with that. But that doesn't mean you were too much. It doesn't mean you were bad or wrong, and it definitely doesn't mean you have to squish all your feelings down to be good or to be right. And you don't have to distract yourself from your feelings. And you don't have to numb those feelings. You can just feel them and be them. You are the right kind of person. But this is one of the biggest reasons I would say I see people turn to body control in a really sort of compulsive way. Second client case example that I can give you is about sexuality. And again, I actually have a lot of clients. This isn't just one. But when we try to figure out what's going on below the desire to control, food, weight, and body, a lot of times that is a desire to repress and squelch down that same thing, like really squeeze it out of your consciousness and try to get rid of it completely, is sexuality. And this can look a couple of different ways. So one way that I see a lot is a person who was brought up in like a Christian or Catholic or evangelical world where sexuality was really shamed. It was considered dirty or bad or wrong or gross. And so that person, especially girls, takes the message that because they have desire at all, they are bad and dirty and gross and wrong. And so they try to squish out that sexuality, push it down, get rid of it completely. One of the ways that they learn to do that is by controlling their body, controlling their food, controlling their exercise, controlling the shape and size and look and appearance of their body in every possible way. Again, this serves the dual functions. One is it distracts you from your feelings of sexual desire. The other is it actually does numb them out a little bit. So when somebody is trying to get rid of sexual desire completely, their entire sexuality can actually be erased with enough body control. If you think about, in the case of a lot of eating disorders, somebody who has numbed themselves to their bodies by overcoming appetite to food might be anorexic, right? That's a really extreme example of somebody who has gotten rid of sensation in their body and appetite in their body via, it's a mental illness, but it's that same kind of channel. It really actually does keep you from feeling your appetite at a certain point. The same is sort of true. It's really paralleled with desire. If you have a desire, a lust, a wanting of sex, you can kind of get rid of that by being starving all the time. You can kind of get rid of that by being in control and overcoming your body's drive all the time. And so if you have this going on in your history, you might discover that it feels terrifying, completely threatening to not think of being in control of your food and weight and body all the time, because what you're really terrified is sexuality. Your sexual desires coming out, or being too much, or being the wrong kind. Another example in this area would be somebody who is queer or has a particular kink or fetish, and that person again gets the message somewhere along the way that their sexual desires are wrong and bad and dirty and problematic and need to be squished out and completely repressed. And so again, they find that just controlling their food and body and everything is a way that they can kind of get through that. The last way might be that a person experiences trauma in childhood around sexuality. Often, unfortunately, this happens to girls when they are sexualized before they're ready. So they're sexualized usually before they feel sexual. Most of the women that I know experienced being sexualized as children. And so maybe that was due to abuse or assault or trauma in some way, or maybe it was just like kind of living in the world where you're starting to recognize at 11 or 12 or 13, people are looking at you in a certain way. Your body is changing and you're not a sexual being yet, but people are starting to sexualize you. That can have its own effect in this way, where it makes you start to think, oh my God, I must be sexual. People see me as sexual, clearly. They want something from me, or they expect or assume things about me that don't necessarily feel authentic to me, but like maybe I'm putting out the wrong vibe or whatever it is. So there's something about, even if you don't actively desire a certain kind of sex, that sometimes it's just that stickiness of like feeling too sexual and trying to repress that out of you so that you are safe in the world, so that other people don't see you that way, so that you aren't violated, your boundaries aren't violated if that was an issue for you. It can feel like by controlling everything, you are keeping yourself safe from being seen as a sexual being, or from having to have sex, or from people wanting to cross that boundary with you, because you think, or at least the hope, the sort of unconscious hope would be, by controlling everything, you can control other people. You can stay safe. So there is also that component to the sexuality version of what could be going on when it comes to control, and only kind of what your history is. But just recognize that for some people, wanting to repress sexuality is about repressing sexual desires and urges that are genuine and authentic. And sometimes it's repressing how other people treat you, how other people see you, or something that happened to you that you weren't ready for or didn't want. The third case study, as it were, when it comes to what could be going on around obsessive body control is similar to sexual desire and appetite, but it's more like a lust for life. A lust for a non-normative life specifically is often a root cause of somebody who wants to squelch down, repress, change, and control everything about who they are. So if you think about this one being more like a person who is wanting of so many things. They want to travel and they want to try things and they want to have non-normative experiences of relationships. Maybe they want to be polyamorous, or they want to just sleep with a bunch of people in France and smoke cigarettes and write novels, or maybe they want to save whales in the Arctic, and they have big dreams and big desires. And this person is probably, that sounds amazing, I want to be friends with this person, but also this person has probably been given the idea, the message somewhere along the way, that that's wrong, that that's stupid, that that's selfish, that that's crazy. Whatever it is, it has not probably been welcomed with open arms by everybody that they meet. And part of the reason is just because we have a normative life set up. We have this idea that a normal adult life looks like paying bills, working at a job you hopefully like but aren't probably going to feel super passionate about, that you will live in a house in the suburbs, maybe you'll get married and have kids, and that's your life, and then you retire someday and you get to do a couple fun things and then you die. Like, that's a normative life. It has a lot of components to it that don't make many of us feel super excited to be alive. So for a lot of my clients, we will get to a point of talking about control stuff where it becomes apparent that what they've been trying to control and squelch and repress down is actually just a lust for a different kind of life, a drive and an appetite for something else, something bigger, something more authentic to them, something more exciting and fun and juicy and vibrant. And that alone is something they have to squish down if they want to belong among normative life people. So this is one of those things where control. Sometimes it just comes down to wanting to be accepted and belong among your community. And when your community is a bunch of normative people in the suburbs with, partners and kids and jobs they don't really like, it can feel like you have to squish out who you are in order to belong there, in order to fit in. Or maybe your family has always been putting the pressure on you. You should get married, you should have kids. And you're over here being like, I just want to travel and I want to start my own business and I want to write books. So whatever it is for you, if this resonates, recognize that you have been trying to squish out your authentic drive for life because you've been taught that that is the only way you can really be an adult, that that's the only way you can fit in adulthood. And so for this kind of person, control is it's exactly the same. It distracts you from what you really want. It keeps you busy. This is actually a huge one. It keeps you busy, focused on, you don't have time to go travel and write books and like meet people and do all these things when you're just obsessed with food and exercise and body stuff. But it also does numb that stuff out. So you will feel a less drive and urge and lust for life when you are hungry and tired from over-exercising and distracted and anxious about following all of your rules. So in that case, it's the same thing as all of the other ones. It's just a little bit harder to name sometimes because whatever desires and drive you have is going to be unique to you. I know for me, I always felt like I wanted a different kind of life than was available to me. Like, you aren't allowed to just go be the kind of adult that I wanted to be. It turns out you actually are totally allowed to do that, and I'm doing it, but that wasn't what I saw growing up. And so I always had this feeling that I was like the wrong kind of person. And so for me, I would say some of my desire to control things came from this. It was a desire to be normative, to be normal, or at least to look normal and have people treat me like I was normal, even though I knew I wasn't normal in these particular ways. And controlling helped me push some of that down. So this is the one that I most resonate with. But if you're coming up against this one, it could be about any number of desires, lust for life, or hopes and dreams for life that don't go along with the sort of normative script. So what do you do with all this? First of all, if you are finding that body control is your main thing when it comes to body image issues, it's all about, I just need to be in control. If your biggest fear is getting out of control or feeling out of control, or if you are convinced that if you stop white-knuckling your way through your food rules and your exercise rules that you will suddenly spin out of control, those are pretty big clues that control is at the foundational core of what's going on for you and your body image issues. Please recognize that this is a long process. This can be a long journey. It is not easy to overcome control stuff when it comes to body image, but it can be done. If you start with this, just recognize that, control is my thing. The next step is to just try to figure out what it is that you're controlling, because it's not your body. It's not actually your weight. It's not really the way you look. That's not the thing that has become compulsive control. That's not the thing that is actually as scary as you have come to think it is about getting out of control. Something else makes you feel out of control. So the next step is just to figure out, what is that something for you? What makes you feel out of control that isn't your body? What makes you feel like there's something totally bad and wrong about you, totally unacceptable and problematic that you have to control in order to fit in or belong, or for people to like you, or to have a normal life, or to be considered good? Because something else, not your body, is making you feel like you're the wrong kind of person and you have to stay in control, or else everybody will find out you're this terrible, out of control person and abandon you. So try and figure out what that is. Be really curious. Be really compassionate. This isn't following logic here, so don't try to out logic your way. You probably logically know that you feel your feelings, and feelings are fine. We all have them. But some part of you, somewhere below the level of logic most likely, might believe that your feelings are just too big. And if you ever let them fully out, it would destroy people. It would destroy relationships. It would threaten your ability to have community and connection and partnership and love. So if that's you, or if your sexuality feels that way, or if your appetite for life or anything else really feels that way, that's probably the direction you need to be going to heal some of this control stuff. Because until you genuinely feel safe being you, not needing to control internal aspects of yourself, you are always going to find it impossible to give up control over your body. Why? because body control gives you an element of control over those parts of yourself. And because this works, even if it doesn't work perfectly, and it doesn't, it does work a bit, it works enough that we become obsessed with it, and it has kind of its own addictive quality and path, body control stuff, because once you follow a bunch of rules for a while, it then becomes terrifying to break those rules. And that is the next step, breaking those rules and teaching yourself that you're actually free. You don't have to follow those rules. Nothing bad happens if you skip the gym. Nothing bad happens if you eat a cookie that you didn't plan for. But breaking those rules won't matter. It will just feel terrifying and super gross and bad and bring up a whole bunch of triggers for you if you haven't already done the work to look at what it is that those habits of control we're trying to control and repress and push down about you as a person. So I hope this is helpful. Please let me know what you think in the comments. I love to discuss this kind of thing with you guys. And also, I am absolutely working through how to present this kind of material around control so that it is easily accessible and that everybody can understand, that's me, I want to move forwards with this path. So let me know if I'm missing something, if you figure out, my control is about repressing this thing and it wasn't in Jesse's video. Please share that with me, because I want to have a better map to share with everybody about what these kinds of root causes of body image issues are and how we can move forward from them.